What's up, everybody? My name is Steven Sanchez. Thank you for stopping in. Today, we're going to start focusing on line weights. Okay. And line weights. What is line weights? Line weights is the depth in which your line will carry a thicker form based off of the actual lighting conditions. Okay. So there's a standardized line art or a line piece or just a line. And then here's the thickness of it and the weightness of the actual line art. Okay, it's very simple. Figure out the light source. So let's say the light source is coming in from this direction. Then you're gonna put it in the adjacent side, and it's based off of the thickness. The closer the light, the thicker the line art. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then what you can do is you can actually thicken it real thick or thin it out real thin based off of how close you think the line, or rather the light, is based off of the object. Okay, same thing over here and over here. See that? So it just adds a little bit of depth to it. So line weights it can help you. You can use it stylistically. You don't have to use it because you can actually illustrate. I'm using a standardized pencil that comes with Procreate. This app can be purchased over on the App Store. So let's say, for example, I illustrated a neck over here, the clavicle, the chest. Okay, so very simple. How can I go ahead and utilize the line art in order to add some depth to the actual piece? Okay, so very simple. If we, let's say the light source, once again, it's going to be over here. So it's going to be shining as a nice overcast, not too harsh. So we're going to keep the lines over here, like on the shoulder area, thinner. And we're going to keep it shadow based over here, which once again, we're not focusing on shadows. We're focusing on the line art itself. But you can go ahead and thin out the line over here. So let's say, for example, I'm going to focus on this whole shoulder. Okay, I'm going to bring down my pencil just a little bit, and we're going to have a nice zone here for me to focus on. So you see how thin the line art is? All of this right here is super thin. So we're going to actually do a little thick to thin ratio. Around the rounded areas right here, I like to add a little bit of roundness to it. Just a little bit, not too much. Like that. See that? So you can add that little roundness in there. So it adds a little depth to it. And then right around us here, you can add a little bit of depth in there. And then work your way around like that. So as you can see, it's starting to, these two pieces right here, 1 and 2, and even here, right here, 3, you can add a little bit of depth right in there. And as you can see, it's already having a little form of life to it. Okay. Once again, we're not doing shadow work for the muscles, but just to start separating the muscles and the groups themselves. This is the trapezius muscle. You can see that there's that, and then right here the deltoids. Because if I start focusing on the deltoids itself, I'll erase these areas and add a little bit of muscle structure here, like that. And then I can actually add a little bit of depth of the line in there. So as you can see, this is thin, and then this is thick. Okay. So a little thick to thin ratio, you start adding depth to your line art. you can still go ahead and utilize something this simple in order to do standard line art like anime. Anime does this very often. Um, their lines are pretty much, because I have in my brush pack that I created the line art pen, which is just nothing but a thick or a thin line. As you can see, there's no depth to it. It just creates that actual line itself. And then you can go ahead and start utilizing it to draw the line art itself. And then you can actually then use the erase tool to create the thin line art. You can go that route. There's a lot of different ways of going about stylizing the line itself. If you want to do that, you can use the actual quill, which has a thick to thin ratio depending on where I put my brush. See that? By adding a little pressure, you can create the same thing with depth, or you can build the line like I was showing here by just going over the actual area bit by bit. When I ink, I tend to do that. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and just build the line. So I'm not very... The only time I use the thick to thin brush like this is when I'm sketching, because you can actually add quick depth. You don't need to create anything too crazy. So let's say, for example, I'm creating a character over here, and I just need to just get the shorthand going. And the shorthand is just a quick sketch as to what you want the character to be doing. So it doesn't have to be beautiful. So as you can see, you see how quickly I can just go ahead and add detail work, because it's just that, it's just a shorthand. I can add the detail work real quick. It has a thick to thin ratio, and I can just get in there super fast and get the job done and focus on where the shadows would be if I'm going to be doing a very intricate piece with shadow work, and then or detail work. See that? And I can just kind of go in here, and I'm a bit more intricate in this, in the sense of the layout design, but for the sake of drawing fast and showing you, then this is what I want to be detailing in front of you, just to get the point across that you can use a brush like this just to add a little bit of quick depth and get things done a little faster. Okay, see, this is where I just know where the shadows are going to be. But once again, this right here is where you want to be living. If I switch to a red pen, it's easier. So I can just come in here, thick to thin ratio, and once again, you can clean it up. And this is just a part of the drawing process. See that? All of this right here, and then just thick to thin, and you can keep doing that with just either a brush, or you can build upon it. And that's exactly what you want to do, is you want to build upon it, especially if you're using a pencil. The pencil, it'll act like a brush if you want it to, okay? And how you do that is, once again, you add, okay? Like, let's say, for example, let me just go straight into the actual Procreate pencil. See, standard pencil. And all you're doing is just you're adding to the curvature, and you're just coloring it in, and it gives you that depth, okay? That's all you're doing. You're just adding depth to it. But once again, keeping lighting in mind, all right, as much as possible. Because you don't want to go too thick in a line here when the light source isn't that potent, you know? So I was like, well, why do you want to go too thick? It becomes a stylized choice. So keep that in mind when you're messing with line weights. And that's it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So hopefully that'll get you going on line art and line weights. And then you can just start little by little practicing. Remember to sign, date the artwork. That way when you go back, you can always see the improvements that you've made throughout time. So hopefully that helps you out, and I'll see you in the next video.